welcome to the inaugural episode of Eastside Fantasy Football. A lot of people have been waiting as far as our friends go. We'll see if we get more traction, but this is Eastside Fantasy Football. Joe, do you have the Twitter handle where people can find us?
Eastside FF, capital E, capital S, FF at the end. Find us on Twitter. I think we have about 12 followers right now, so we're growing very fast. So you want to get in early, join the movement.
Yeah, and so today is Tuesday, August 30th. I am your host, Nick Testoni, joined by my other host, Joseph Briner. A little background on us and why we're doing this. We're two former college baseball teammates. We went to school together for 3 years at St. Mary's College, Maryland, where we played fantasy football for all years we were there and now all the way up through. We both graduated. And nothing is really stopping us from doing this now. We're huge fantasy fans. We were guys who maybe weren't paying the best attention in class when classes were going on, especially during the fall. We were looking at fantasy stuff. And, now that everyone's graduated, we had a great group of guys, all teammates. We used to sit together every single Sunday. Some of the best memories I have from college, we would just all come together in a house and watch about 3 different games in Red Zone. And now that we've all graduated, we've all moved away. This is a way for us to stay together, as well as do something and talk about something we love, which is fantasy football.
Yeah. And a funny thing is we actually started the first team together when we were at school. We were on the same team. We were co-managers. I remember Kirk Cousins was our quarterback. I'll never forget it. Eastside Arc Boys was the team name, actually, of our first ever fantasy football team together. That's kind of where this Eastside fantasy football came from. Definitely helps that we're on the East Coast. We live on the East Coast, so that kind of ties into it as well. Throughout this podcast, I know we definitely want to focus on not only just like general fantasy football talk, NFL talk, rankings, drafts, all that sort of stuff. We definitely want to talk about our fantasy league that we're in together. We have a core group of guys like Tessoni talked about that we definitely want to highlight that league. It's a 12-man PPR league, ESPN format. We definitely want to highlight that with all of our friends, kind of just keep this a tight-knit group and talk about that league and branch out into other stuff for other people to listen to as well.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing I think a lot of people could enjoy about this is we're going to be talking about a league, which is our close group of friends. And I feel like fantasy football is all that. It's just we'll be
making fun of them a lot as well. And ourselves when we do dumb things, but
just a close group of friends who played fantasy football. And I mean, why not talk about it? Why not share it? So are you ready? That's a good start to it. You want to get into the news?
Yeah. One more thing. Do want to explain our recording schedule, our planned recording schedule. So August 30th today, Tuesday, when you're listening to this, we're going to be doing Tuesdays and Saturdays. Will be posted episodes. It's going to be a weekend recap on Tuesday. We'll go over how Sunday went, how Monday night went. And then we're going to do a weekend preview on Saturdays to kind of preview every week coming up. So Saturday, the 10th, I believe, September 10th will be the first weekend preview. We'll be able to go over the Thursday night game on the 8th and then go into the weekend preview. So, yeah, let's get into the news.
All right, let's go with the news. I got 3 pieces of news to start it. The first one, pretty sad news coming out of Washington. Now, if people don't know, Joe is a Washington Commanders fan, pretty close situation. Brian Robinson was shot, was the news that came through.
Twice, actually.
Pretty crazy stuff. I have a quote right here from it saying, Robinson suffered 2 gunshot wounds to his lower extremities and was taken to a local hospital. I believe Ron Rivera did take to Twitter saying that he's in good condition. He's fine. I believe he posted on Instagram today saying he's out of surgery, might be released from the hospital. I have no idea what this means for his rookie season. Obviously, he will not be starting. Pretty sad altogether as a human being, but also for a rookie who looked like he may be locked down a starting position. They had Antonio Gibson returning kicks. We'll get later into this episode about our running back rankings and see if that affected anything. But right now, how are you feeling?
Yeah, as the resident Manders fan, I will be calling them the Manders instead of the Commanders. But It sucks. I mean, it's crazy. Obviously, nobody expected this. Brian Robinson didn't expect this. He didn't deserve this. I mean, it's just a really sad story to hear. Luckily, he is okay. 2 gunshot wounds to, I believe, his leg and his glute, I think I saw on Twitter.
Yeah,
and
that's it.
And so luckily, he does seem to be okay. You don't wish that on anybody, obviously. And fantasy football-wise, actual football-wise, is not the bigger deal here, which we obviously know. But with this being a fantasy football podcast, we are going to get into it a little bit later on when we get into the RB rankings.
Yeah, I will say it looks like there's a chance he might play this year. Not a ton if you go back in history, I think Plexico Burress shot himself in the foot. I don't think he played the rest of that year. That was later on. That was also a shot to his foot. I know last year I'm a Ravens fan. I'm your local Vens fan. During the bye week, we had a linebacker who was struck with a stray bullet in the calf. He returned later that season. That was a stray bullet, not a direct hit. So not a lot to go on. I think he'll be, if I had to take a guess, I think he'll be back this year and he'll get a huge ovation from his Washington crowd. I think it'll be way later than we expect, but I do believe Brian Robinson will be back and hopefully speedy recovery for him. Second piece of news, Aaron Rodgers was on the Joe Rogan podcast this week. And Rodgers noted that he has played on Percocets, while he also stated he wasn't didn't have a high enough dose to be intoxicated on him. He did admit that he has played on painkillers, especially early in his career, including Percocets, and then he later claimed that it was a terrible idea. Joe, this is the back-to-back MVP. Do you have anything to say on Rodgers on Percs?
Aaron Rodgers definitely heard the Perkies calling. I mean, I don't have much to say besides that. I mean, he goes on the Joe Rogan podcast and he starts just talking reckless. That's probably something he didn't need to bring up. I don't necessarily care. Like, if Aaron Rodgers wants to do that and go play football and win back-to-back MVPs, clearly he's going to, and he's going to still be able to succeed in the league. He likes losing the playoffs.
Are you a Rodgers fan? Let me start. Are you a Rodgers fan?
I wouldn't say I'm a Rodgers fan. I definitely don't dislike Aaron Rodgers, but at the same time, I have no ties towards Green Bay. I have no ties towards Aaron Rodgers. As a fantasy quarterback, I think he's very efficient, but without Davante Adams now, I don't really know. I like the running game a lot better than I like the passing game there this upcoming season, but if he's going to be playing on Percocets, I'm going to let him, to be honest. I don't care.
I don't believe he has played recently on Percocets, but I thought it was interesting to bring up. I love Aaron Rodgers. Saw Pat McAfee's show. He's a very interesting dude, and I'll be honest, when I saw it, I was like, you know what? I don't know if you've seen him the last couple of years with his I guess more of a zenful quality Rodgers has had. He can do whatever the hell he wants.
Yeah, you can't argue that. Can't argue that at all.
No. Last piece of news. The NFL Top 100, they release the top 100 players every single year. And not too long ago, my man, Lamar Jackson, was number 1. But this year, they released the top 10. I'm going to read you the 10 right here. Number 10 was Travis Kelce. I thought that was interesting, coming off probably
That is interesting.
Not his best year. I think a lot of people would argue that Mark Andrews was the top 10 last year, but Kelce at 10, Jalen Ramsey at 9, Patrick Mahomes at 8, 7, we have Davante Adams, who you just mentioned, and new Las Vegas Rager. TJ Watt at 6, Jonathan Taylor at 5. Number 4 is your Cooper Kupp.
God, I love
3
so
is the perk man himself, Aaron Rodgers. Number 2, Aaron Donald. And number 1 is the 45-year-old Tom Brady. Brady just came off a 10 or 11-day absence from camp. I believe the quote was, "I'm a 45-year-old man. I got a lot of shit going on."
That is exactly what he said. I'm a little surprised with the list, to be honest.
I agree.
He's a 45-year-old man. And is he the GOAT? Yes. Is he the number 1 rated football player in the NFL right now? My opinion, no. I also think TJ Watt probably should have snuck in the top 5 from a defensive standpoint. We won't talk defense too much here, but I think TJ Watt should have been. I mean, that's even saying Jonathan Taylor, because Jonathan Taylor was number 5 on that list. So to bump TJ Watt in, he would have to bump out, and I think he probably should have.
I agree. TJ Watt's a force to be reckoned with. I hate TJ Watt as a Ravens fan, but he is very good at what he does. And he's a game wrecker, and he almost didn't. I was at the game. The Steelers fans thought he set the single season sack record, but they took it away because Tyler Huntley, it was considered a rush attempt. That was a tackle for a loss, so he did not get the record.
Oh my
God. Put that out there.
How many did he actually finish with?
I believe 21 and a half. Then you need 22 as the record. Or maybe he tied it. I think he tied it, but he did not break it.
I believe he missed a game or two as well. I'd have to look that up to make sure.
Well, that's part of the game. Got to be on the field.
That's exactly
Availability
right.
is the best ability.
100%.
But I agree, Tom Brady, especially, I don't think he had a good fantasy year, great fantasy year, but there was something missing last year. It just didn't seem to have the same killer instinct. And the Buccaneers, to be honest, kind of tailed off towards the end of the season. But anyways, that is the news. This is a running back and wide receiver ranking show. Do you want to get into running backs rankings to start?
Yes.
On stretch. Anybody pay attention to Viking football? 84 don't stretch on game day.
Let's start off with that running back. These are going to be PPR rankings. Me and Tessoni both have our own separate rankings here. We're going to break it down tier-wise. Let's just get right into it, Tier 1 for both of us. I mean, 1, 2, you can go either way. I think that we'd agree on that. A lot of people are going to have CMC first. A lot of people are going to have Jonathan Taylor first. We both have CMC out of the 1 spot. We both have Jonathan Taylor at the 2 spot, and that's tier 1. I mean, those two are just a step above everyone. My personal opinion, if they both play a 17-game season, or 16, I guess, for fantasy-wise, but if they play every game this year, Christian McCaffrey will be the number 1 running back, and Jonathan Taylor should be the number 2 running back. I don't think I can see it any other way.
I agree. If he's on the field, he's scoring more points than Taylor. And I almost think he gets an upgrade this year with Baker. That'll be later when we talk about stuff, maybe wide receivers, because I'm pretty high on DJ Moore. But I think the Panthers know, and Matt Rule knows, who's holding on for a job, the best way for him to win games and get offensive production is to use Christian McCaffrey. Mm-hmm. I will say, I think you'll see a little more Chuba Hubbard than you might expect because they don't want him to take as much workload this year with his injury history. But I don't think it'll be enough to be like substantial production is being taken away. Christian McCaffrey is hands down the better player.
I agree. I don't think there's a whole lot to say about Jonathan Taylor either. I mean, he's the RB1 last year, just absolutely dominant. And I think he's going to be absolutely dominant again. But the only reason that I have him at number 2 is because Christian McCaffrey can be a cheat code. So jumping down here, tier 2, we both have the same 4 guys in our tier 2, just in a slightly different order. I'll go ahead and read mine then if you want to read yours. Dalvin Cook at the 3 hole for me. Following that, Derrick Henry at 4, Austin Eckler at 5, and DeAndre Swift at 6 to round out my tier 2 running backs.
Real quick, all right. So I have Austin Eckler at 3. Not a huge discrepancy. These are all the same guys that you said. I have Eckler, Henry, Cook, and Swift. And I'll be honest with you, when it comes to Henry, how do I put this? I don't think Henry is going to fall off the cliff. However, in all my mocks, have not been taking Derrick Henry, and I'm just scared. I think he'll be good, and I think he'll be maybe not the pace he was on last year, but maybe 2-3 years ago, that kind of pace, a little less work. Again, I think the league in general is moving towards less 3-down workhorses. Two things I'm scared of with Derrick Henry. I was talking with a friend last night doing mocks who was bringing up running backs. When they get to the age of 27 and later, there is a lot of decline. Derrick Henry's 28, coming off the first major injury in his NFL career. And I just don't want to be first-round picks you got to hit. They're not winning you leagues, but they're losing you leagues. We've talked about this. Derrick Henry scares me in that regard, and also game script. I don't think this Tennessee Titans team is going to be great.
That's exactly what I was going to say about Derrick Henry is that he's obviously an amazing running back. I mean, can rush for 2,000 yards and make it look almost easy. But with Robert Woods as the wide receiver 1 now and not an A.J. Brown type player, I think, and from all things I've heard about the offensive line, that it's gotten worse throughout this year or for this upcoming year. And I don't know how they're going to move the ball with only him. Like, obviously, he's gotten the ball stuck in his gut 30 times in a game and succeeded, but he can't do that for an entire season and for being an older running back. So I definitely agree with that. With Dalvin Cook and Austin Eckler, we have those flipped 3 and 5 with Derrick Henry at the 4 spot. I think this entire list, and we both have DeAndre Swift at 6. I think this entire tier 2 can be any which way, and I wouldn't really argue it. So I think unless you have anything else to say, I mean, I'm very high on DeAndre Swift this year.
Yeah, I love DeAndre Swift.
I think the Lions as a whole are going to be just slightly better this year. They have nice wide receivers. They have DeAndre Swift and Jamal Williams in the backfield. But DeAndre Swift is obviously the guy. And even if they're playing from behind, DeAndre Swift is a pass catcher, and he's a beast. So I like him he could even sneak into the top 5, and it wouldn't surprise me.
I think, so here's the ceiling right here, the difference when it comes to these next guys, this next tier. DeAndre Swift, his ceiling is running back 1. Jamal Williams, he will see time, and he is also a pass catcher.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he cuts into the major production of this DeAndre Swift.
I don't think so either. You want to read tier 3? You can get into tier 3.
Yeah, so tier 3 for you want me to do my thing?
Yeah.
Okay, so I have one more guy in tier 3. I have Najee Harris at 6, at 7. 8's Kamara, 9 Aaron Jones, 10 Joe Mixon, 11 Javonte Williams, 12 Saquon Barkley, and 13 Leonard Fournette. Leonard Fournette for me at the end has recently been on a decline. I'm going to rock with him right now, but he's definitely the reason he's the last in this list. I think Leonard Fournette's value comes from a Tom Brady offense.
I agree with that. I think that Leonard Fournette is the scariest of this list simply because he definitely lives off Tom Brady. When he was in Jacksonville, he wasn't able to get it done by himself. And also with the injuries that have happened to the Buccaneers offensive line. Going to my tier 3, pretty similar. I have one less guy in this tier, but 7 Alvin Kamara, 8 Aaron Jones, 9 Joe Mixon, 10 Najee Harris. That's one of our biggest gaps we have here. I have Najee way down. I'm just not sold on the offense as a whole in Pittsburgh. And I think that is going to correlate to the running back. He may get a lot of touches, but I don't know how much he can keep it going with the 2.8 yards a carry. After Najee coming in at 11, I have Leonard Fournette. We just talked about him. In 12, rounding out my RB1s, I actually have James Conner. Javonte Williams snubbed out of my RB1 rankings. James Conner, I think, I don't love him at the 12 spot. I think he's one of those running backs that you can get later in that late second round. And I think he's
going somewhere between like the 107, 108, anywhere between that, and then the 207.
Yeah.
28, and then all the way to like the wrap in the 3rd.
Yeah, so I think he's somebody that could still be an RB1, especially with DeAndre Hopkins missing the first 6 games. I think James Conner still could be an RB1 and be drafted a lot later than some of these guys that are going at the back end of the first. Obviously, he doesn't have the upside, and there should be some TD regression in his future. But I still like him sneaking in the 12 spot, and I know he is the guy. And I think that's why, spoiler, Javonte being my 13th ranked running back, I think he's one spot ahead because I know James Conner is the guy in Arizona, and I still think Javonte's getting some split carries, which I know he's someone you are in love with. So I don't know if you want to talk about him a little bit. Tell me what you're feeling.
Yeah, so I took Javonte last year, and I was really hoping he was gonna, bust out. And I think I heard this earlier this year. He ended the year with the exact same amount of carries as Melvin Gordon. It was about as true 50-50 split as you can. It's been documented. They brought Melvin Gordon back, but it was way later on way cheaper money. I think Melvin Gordon is still a talented player, and he's definitely worth picking up. He's a real value late in drafts. But as the season goes on, this is going to be Javonte Williams' backfield. He will get the brunt of the work, and it's a better offense. The quarterback this year is Russell Wilson. It's not Drew Lock. It's not Teddy Bridgewater. So I think that ups the offense. The goal line opportunities are going to be there. I think Javonte's ceiling is top 3 running back. if it all clicks. And even with Melvin Gordon there, I don't think it makes a difference. One other guy I want to bring up in here uh, is Saquon Barkley, a name that is just like poison to some fantasy players' ears for the last couple of years. Saquon Barkley for me could be the Joe Mixon of last year. I love taking guys that people quit on because they've burned them in the past. Uh, we have a player who hated Joe Mixon in our league. Well, you'll hear him referenced a lot. His name is Soup. Tyler Campbell, we call him Soup. He hated Joe Mixon, and because he voiced about how much he hated Joe Mixon all the last 2 years, I think it scared some people off of him. And I got Joe Mixon in the third round last year, and he was a great value. Uh, Not much to say about Mixon here right now, but I think Saquon, because of the disappointing last year injuries, and then missed the year before that with the ACL. I think in a new offense with Brian Dable, I think the Giants can get it. He's still very talented. He's 25 years old, I believe. He can still get it done. Saquon Barkley is a great value, and I think he could be a running back one this year.
I can definitely get behind that. And something that I was just thinking about that's actually crazy to me is a few years ago or a couple years ago, Christian McCaffrey and Saquon Barkley were the 1-2. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which is crazy that they both have this like beat up injury past. And for some reason, I currently have Saquon as my 15th ranked running back and Christian McCaffrey is my first. And I know Saquon is year 12 spot and CMC is year 1, but that is a crazy gap. I think part of it is reasonable because of the offense, because of how well the teams are as a whole. But it is crazy to think about Saquon is that much farther down when he's just as much the talent, in my personal opinion.
Absolutely. And I think they will make you want to do yourself a favor, go look at the depth chart behind Saquon Barkley. I think the number 2 right now is Matt Breida. Matt fucking Breida. There is no chance he is going to get significant snaps on this team. You want to talk about there's no 3-down backs left? Saquon Barkley will be taking probably 80 to 90% of the snaps.
I love that. I can get behind that. And that actually makes me want to move Saquon up in my rankings, but it's a little too late for that. So coming into tier 4 here, I have a small tier 4. Yours is a little bit bigger, but that's where Javonte comes in for me at 13. I talked about it a little bit. I don't like the split. Aaron Jones, I know Aaron Jones and Javonte are kind of similar, but Aaron Jones is already cemented as that for sure one. I think Javonte still might get closer to like a 60-40 and not 80-20 that some people are hoping. So I definitely don't dismiss when you think that he could be a top 3 running back. I personally don't think. I think his ceiling is probably RB 7, 6 maybe would be my personal ceiling for him. But to each their own. So coming in at 14 is Ezekiel Elliott. Coming in 15, Saquon Barkley, and 16, Nick Chubb. So it's a very small tier 4 for me. But I think that grouping right there isn't this stout RB1. I think they all could be RB1s. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think that they have that locked in RB1 status for me personally. But they're also good enough that I don't want to drop them down into that lower level RB2 range. So I don't know. You want to go over your tier 4 rankings for us?
Yeah. So my tier 4 is a little bigger, and I'll be honest with you, kind of getting close to that RB dead zone that everyone talks about. My tier 4, perfect for me, is I think these guys are good players. I would not be comfortable with them as my running back 1. I'd be perfectly fine with these guys as my running back 2 if I was drafting. So mine goes Nick Chubb.
I agree.
Yeah, Nick Chubb, James Conner, Ezekiel Elliott, Cam Akers, J.K. Dobbins, Josh Jacobs, Breece Hall. I want to say I think the highest upside is probably J.K. Dobbins. That's a team that likes to run. I know my Ravens. He's not on the pup. I don't know if he's going to play the first game, but he will not miss 4 weeks. The Gus Edwards backup and Mike Davis. Gus Edwards isn't the pup. He will miss the first 4 weeks. And Mike Davis is Mike Davis. I mean, he's going to get his snaps, but I don't think it's going to be significant. So if J.K. Dobbins clicks, this is a guy you take who you kind of want maybe to get. You're not going to get the greatest production in the beginning, but as the season goes on, you might find gold there. That's the highest upside in this list. The other ones, Chubb's probably the safest guy here. I really don't like that Cleveland offense at all, especially with no Watson. Connor, my thing with Connor is I like James Conner. There has to be a regression. there has to be aggression with his output last year. He scored so many times. Zeke, my only problem with Zeke is like I know he's here. I had Zeke last year. People can say he was hurt. Zeke is now 27, I believe, which is that age. And I watched a lot of Zeke last year. I just didn't think he had the same. Just he just looked like he was losing it a bit. I think this is the year that Ezekiel Elliott is going to finish outside of being an RB1.
I think that's reasonable on Zeke. He does just look like he kind of lost that pep in his step. Tony Pollard comes in and looks like a dart shooting through the wind, like when he gets those swing passes. Nick Chubb.
Real quick, with that said,
yeah,
I think he still is going to have value. If he drops, Zeke is a good RB2 because Tony Pollard is never going to be the workhorse.
I would love to have Zeke as my RB2. If I was able to go someone like, I don't know, if I had towards the end, if I was able to go like a Joe Mixon and wrap around and maybe get Zeke or anything like that, I would like Zeke to be my RB2. It would be super nice.
Yeah. I mean, he'll have value. I just don't think he's not going to be that bell cow of previous years.
No, I do not want him to be my RB1. That's for sure. And just kind of like what you said, Nick Chubb, I'm worried about Nick Chubb. I have him as ranked as my 16th running back. I think he could be in the 20s easily. And that's crazy because of how great of a runner he is. But I don't see the Cleveland offense moving very well. And I see Kareem Hunt, Kareem Hunt, my 24th ranked running back. I almost want to move him up because I think in a crazy world, shot in the dark world, Kareem Hunt is higher ranked running back than Nick Chubb by the end of the season. Very crazy call, but I could see it happening because Jacoby Brissett having to dump it off to Kareem on third down all the time. And Kareem being Kareem Hunt, just being a beast, being able to take it and get in chunk plays, That's what I know.
I don't think that's crazy. I've had a lot of shares of Kareem Hunt in the past couple of years. I think he's always a great value because he just moves a different way than a lot of running backs do. And he's a great pass catcher. Obviously, the problem with Chubb and Hunt have always been that they almost share it. It's like one takes a drive, the other one takes a drive off. And honestly, recently, especially last year, before Hunt got hurt, I think he was an RB1. Up until his injury, I believe he was like the RB7 or 8.
Yes.
He, for some reason, just gets a lot of touchdowns. He's
got a nose like for the end zone.
15 yards out, he gets a run. He gets a lot of goal line work. I think that's always been the problem with Chubb. Chubb will run for like 120 yards a game, but he just doesn't score, which is what you need. I agree.
He doesn't catch passes either.
No,
I'm sure he could, but he just doesn't. They have Kareem Hunt. And even when Kareem Hunt was hurt last year, Dearness Johnson came in and he was that role as well. So
I think their offensive line has taken a slight hit from previous years as well. I don't like this offense. I wonder, and I don't even know, don't even get into it right now, but I don't even know when Deshaun Watson comes back, how that even folds out because there's such a dark cloud over that.
I know. I can't even look that far. It's just like,
So I don't even know, like, I'm steering clear of a lot of Cleveland Browns this year.
I think Kareem Hunt is the one Cleveland Brown that I want.
Yeah, he's a great value.
So tier 5. I have a pretty large tier 5, and I think that this is where it gets for me that I really don't want to draft them unless I get them at a crazy value and they fell in the draft. I go David Montgomery 17, Josh Jacobs 18, Cam Akers coming in at 19, J.K. Dobbins at 20. I have him a little lower than you. Travis Etienne Jr. 21, Breece Hall 22, Chase Edmonds 23, and then a guy we just talked about, Kareem Hunt, coming in 24. Someone that I want to highlight here, Breece Hall down at 22. I think that might be low for a lot of people, but I've heard a lot of things about Michael Carter still getting first team reps at practice and training camp. And that worries me because Michael Carter showed a lot of like flash last year. And Breece Hall, although he does have the draft capital, and I know they moved up to get him in the early second round, I don't know if he's really going to be this bell cow guy on a bad Jets offense led by elite Joe Flacco.
Yeah, Joe's back. And I don't think they've officially announced it, but he's starting week 1. I don't know if you saw the play he made yesterday against the Giants.
I heard about it. I didn't see it, but I heard about it.
He had a lovely pick 6 that off the back foot rolling to his right. He was prime Joe, and I have no idea who he's looking for there. But anyways, those guys are really tough. The Breece Hall. I have Breece Hall in my tier 4, but he's still at 20. I just have different. There's only two spot difference between us. I just have different things. I think Brees Hall is a great RB2 because he's a lottery ticket. He's gonna play.
Yeah.
With that draft capital, he will get playing time.
He's gonna get run. He just still scares me. He just scares me.
Yeah. So my tier 5 is David Montgomery, Elijah Mitchell, Travis Etienne, Cordero Patterson. I'm not giving up on Cordero Patterson. I feel like he is really low. He's older. Don't get me wrong, he's older, but he doesn't have the tread that people think because he was not always a running back. He was a wide receiver. He was a kick returner. They made him a primary kind of running back last year. He's super talented. I don't know what else is going. Like they have Kyle Pitts, and I believe Drake London is.
Yes.
I mean, is he wide receiver 1 there?
Yes.
Okay, so that's a rookie. Cordell Patterson is going to be the safety valve for quarterback. I mean, the starter is Mariota. You just have to assume that. I think Cordell Patterson still has a lot of value, and I'm not saying he's going to repeat the spectacular season he had last year, but they brought him back. He was a free agent, and they brought him back with an Atlanta team that's probably not going to be great this year. I think they lean on a guy who was in the offense last year with Arthur Smith, and he will get some run. I think Cordell Patterson's a great value, and I think he should be going after that RB dead zone. Like, I think he's going way later. I can double check on that, but go ahead.
I definitely like that. A guy in a very similar like situation is Chase Edmonds for me at 23. He's someone I want to highlight here because I really like the outlook of what could happen with Chase Edmonds. With Mike McDaniel now as the head coach in Miami, I mean, I think the sky can be the limit with a great pass catching running back. Obviously, Tyreek's there and Jalen Waddle, and they're going to command a lot of the target share. But I think Chase Edmonds can earn a solid rushing upside, as well as getting still probably averaging like 4.5, 5 targets a game. I truly believe that because I think Miami's going to be much more of a hybrid offense this year. I think they're going to be a lot better. A lot of people are bringing them up as a team that they like to be a lot better this year, and I definitely agree with that. Someone else that I wanted to talk about super quick, Josh Jacobs. He definitely gets hated on a lot. Yeah. I mean, he's getting hated on, but I'm still a believer. Even if he's losing some third down value, they are going to pass the ball a lot more. They are going to pass the ball a lot more in Las Vegas. And Josh Jacobs can be a great pass catcher.
Oh, yeah, I know he can.
Then that's the crazy part is when they pass him the ball, he's great at getting into space and getting open. But with Josh McDaniels there, obviously there's so much talk about like working in multiple running backs. That has been the report a lot. So
they got rid of Kevin Drake. There's one less mouth to feed there.
For sure. Amir Abdullah is supposed to be like the third round or the third down back.
I don't like Josh Jacobs. I personally don't like him. But I think this offense is going to score way more. And I think he's going to be, Josh McDaniels. I think he's in the Damian Harris role. And by the way, Damian Harris was very good for fantasy last year.
I agree.
So I want to take Josh Jacobs later, like way later, his value. But as a fantasy, never the RB1, RB2 for sure.
He's definitely going to get the goal line work. We'll just leave it at that. And I'm also going to take a quick break and thank our sponsors.
And we're back. Joe, would you like to move on to our wide receiver rankings?
Yes, indeed.
He runs to the 40. The guy is drunk, but there he goes.
So, of course, we're going to start with tier 1 here. My guy, the best wide receiver in the league for fantasy last year, Cooper Kupp.
Your little Cooper Kupp?
My little Cooper Kupp. Thank you very much. Following Cooper Kupp, we're going to go Justin Jefferson. A lot of people, including my good pal, Nick Testoni, are going to have Justin Jefferson number 1. I think even if Cooper Kupp has a big regression here, probably touchdown-wise regression. I wouldn't say receptions. Maybe a little bit. Depends on Matthew Stafford elbow. But Cooper Kupp 1, Justin Jefferson 2, Stephon Diggs 3. There's another one people aren't going to love. Jamar Chase 4. And that ends my tier 1. Stephon Diggs 3 over Jamar Chase. Let's hear yours, Testoni.
So I have Jay Jettas, Justin Jefferson, at 1. I love Justin Jefferson. I think all he does is get better every single year. And if I had to, I don't really think you go wrong, Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson. But Justin Jefferson's stock, I believe, is going up still, especially with the new offense. Kevin O'Connell apparently is making that a lot more throwing, a lot less running.
Oh, yeah.
Cooper Kupp, I think it has to be on the down. You just have one of the greatest seasons ever. I think it just has to be a little bit down. So that's why I have him in front. I have Devontae Adams at 3, Jamar Chase at 4. That's my tier 1. Devontae Adams, here's where I land with him. He's still one of the best route runners in football. Aaron Rodgers is not comparable. I don't think you compare him with Derek Carr. I think Derek Carr is a very good quarterback, but you can't say it's going to be the same. However, I feel like there is going to be a need to force him the ball. And I just think that offense is good. There's a lot of people forget about Hunter Renfrow. I think Hunter Renfrow is a great value. Waller, Renfrow, Adams. I think Adams, he'll have a little bit of a drop off, but he'll still be Devontae Adams. That's why I still have him up here. And Jamar Chase is Jamar Chase.
Yeah, I can't argue with that. Getting into tier 2, we'll step on to Devontae Adams for me, coming in at my 5 spot, followed by Deebo Samuel 6, Tyreek Hill 7, and not my favorite spot here, but CeeDee Lamb 8, finishing up tier 2. I agree with Devontae Adams. Derek Carr does not equal Aaron Rodgers, not even close, but I think he will get fed targets. So I can get behind that. I don't love him in front of Jamar and Stephon Diggs, but I don't hate it enough that I would really argue it, because I think all 3 of those guys could be any 3, 4, 5, even up in the 1-2 range if something happens injury wise, and you can't really argue it. So Deebo 6, Tyreek Hill 7, CD 8, like I said. Those 3, I like Deebo and Tyreek, could go 6, 7 for me. CD, I think, is firmly behind both of them. That's just how I view it. Tyreek in Miami with Tua obviously has a little bit of question marks, but I could see Tyreek Hill being a Deebo Samuel type with Mike McDaniels in Miami. So what are your thoughts on tier 2?
So I have a little bigger tier 2. My thing for tier 2, guys, I felt comfortable being my wide receiver 1. So I have Diggs, Lamb, Hill, Samuel, Evans, especially with Godwin being. I'm not sure where Godwin falls right now. I mean,
he's not on the pup list, but he's definitely still hurt. He's working.
Yeah,
back
I don't
right
think
now.
He's playing the opener. I think that's for sure. Wouldn't. Even if so, I don't think he comes in immediately and is Chris Godwin. I think you're going to need a little later season kind of ease him in. But I like Evans. I love Michael Pittman with a better quarterback and not a lot of options around there. And T. Higgins, 2 Bengals wide receivers for me in the top 12. I love T. Higgins. I love T. Higgins last year when Jamar Chase got drafted very early by the Bengals. I still love him. I think T. Higgins is a great wide receiver. And if a lot of attention goes to Chase, guess what? T. Higgins is good enough to beat any 2 or 3 cornerback on any team. Very scary wide receiver, scary wide receivers there. And Burrow, there's going to be enough passes going around that offense to feed both of them. So those grouping of guys, Diggs, Lamb, Hill, that's obvious, Deebo. But Evans, Pittman, and Higgins, I'm very comfortable being my wide receiver 1 if I decide to go running back in the first half of the draft.
I really like what you said about T. Higgins there. He comes in at my wide receiver 15, getting into tier 3 now. Keenan Allen coming in at 9 for me. Mike Evans 10. Michael Pittman at 11. I'm very high on Michael Pittman as well. We both have him. I mean, it's hard to say. I don't see how Michael Pittman's not a top 12 wide receiver this year.
Michael Pittman was a borderline. I mean, I don't know what he finished offhand right now, but he with Carson Wentz last year was great.
I know, and with Matt Ryan, who's probably gonna produce a wide receiver 1 like he typically does. Although Jonathan Taylor is obviously the guy just for the offense in general with the Colts, Michael Pittman is the guy when the ball's in the air. So getting back to that, Michael Pittman at 11, Cortland Sutton coming in to finish up my wide receiver 1s. Oh, that's not a hot take. I think a lot of people have him in that 10 to 15 range. Obviously, Broncos country, let's ride is in the building. Courtland Sutton, I think he's going to be the wide receiver 1 in Denver. It's that simple. Following that, Mike Williams at 13, DJ Moore at 14, and finishing up tier 3 for me is T. Higgins at 15. The only thing I'm going to say is obviously I think Mike Williams has the highest, or maybe the second highest, you could argue, with a maybe DJ Moore, Michael Pittman ceiling on a weekly basis. But Mike Williams probably has the highest ceiling on a weekly basis of that tier 3, with Justin Herbert slinging it downfield.
I think Mike Williams is
he's scary though.
He's scary. I think when you're taking Mike Williams, it's based on how you're constructing your team. He is I will win you a week guy.
Yep.
So, I mean, I don't think you pair Mike Williams with a guy like who's on this list, like with an AJ Brown or even a Tyreek Hill, to be honest, a guy who can, like, sometimes he just gives you duds. I think
there's still question marks there as well.
Exactly. I think Mike Williams is someone you pair with like maybe a DJ Moore. If you're drafting higher, Devontae, guys who you're going to get a baseline of something from, so that you're not getting absolutely screwed out of your wide receiver production for a week. But I do like Mike Williams. That Mike Williams I have at 18. I have a much deeper wide receiver tier 3 category. Mine goes Keenan Allen at 12, Waddle, Moore, Courtland Sutton, AJ Brown, Terry McLaurin, Mike Williams, Deontay Johnson, and DK Metcalf. I'm going to ask you a question real quick.
Good.
Who would you rather have, AJ Brown or DK Metcalf?
Oof. I am in the minority with this. I hate AJ Brown this year. He's all the way down to my wide receiver 21. And that's a guy who, just by pure talent, should be scratching the surface of top 10, if not in it for sure, because he's a maniac when he's out there. But I also think in years past in Tennessee, he's been a big play guy. And I know I just talked about Mike Williams, but I don't think AJ Brown has that weak ability to reach where Mike Williams does, mainly because of his quarterback. Jalen Hurts, I think he's a great fantasy football quarterback, but I don't think from a passing standpoint, with also Devonta Smith, Dallas Goedert, and him running, I don't see how AJ Brown can finish even right at the bubble of wide receiver 1 range. So this is crazy. I'm going to take DK Metcalf and watch Geno Smith hopefully pepper him with targets in garbage time. I'm going to say DK Metcalf.
So let me know if this doesn't make sense, but I have them ranked AJ Brown at 16, DK Metcalf at 20. They're in the same tier, but there's, it's a difference. I think AJ Brown finishes with more fantasy points than DK Metcalf. I'm not drafting AJ Brown in the slightest, and there are times I'm drafting DK Metcalf solely based on ADP.
Yeah,
the guys around AJ Brown, I want no part of AJ Brown at that ADP. DK Metcalf tends to slip a little more than him. Worse offense. I think both offenses like to run a little more than people think.
Yeah.
But I think DK is better value, which is why I find myself taking DK at times. There's not a single draft I've taken AJ Brown.
I agree. In any mock draft I've done, and I've done so many in this offseason, I have never once drafted AJ Brown. I don't even like having him at wide receiver 21. And I mean, he's such a good NFL wide receiver that he will be in the top 24. Like, something would have to happen for that to not happen. But I don't want to touch him at all. So
let's go to my last tier. My last tier is, let's see, under half the size of your last tier.
Yeah.
But that's okay. My last tier begins with number 21, Brandon Cooks. Steady Eddie. This guy doesn't do anything but just collect 1,000-yard seasons under the radar.
Yep.
And you know what?
Brandon Cooks.
Free Davis Mills. Davis Mills has got a little juice.
I
think he's got enough arm talent to get him the ball. And you know what? Houston,
no problem. Houston, we do not have a problem.
No problems, Houston. Deshaun Watson's gone. There's no like dark cloud there anymore. I think the Houston Texans could be a little fun to watch this year.
I hope you're right. I have Davis Mills as a QB3 in a Superflex Dynasty League, actually. And I think that he performed on a fantasy standpoint better than people think last year.
Oh,
so,
yeah, without a doubt.
And I love Brandon Cooks. He's going to be a top 20. He's going to be right around that 20 to 15 wide receiver range. He's going to be consistent. He'll have a few duds because every wide receiver does. But he's
always undervalued, Brandon Cooks.
Always. Yeah, always. Because he's not flashy. I mean, he'll have like some mid to upper 20-point weeks in full PPR, but it's not going to happen often. And people don't like somebody that can't, score 30 plus in a week.
Yeah. Next, I have Marquise Brown. I'll touch on him in a second. Darnell Mooney and Gabe Davis. I love Gabe Davis. Give me any type of share from that Buffalo offense. Gabe Davis had a coming out party late last year. If you remember that playoff game where he went absolutely berserk. So I love Gabe Davis. I've been targeting him a lot in around the 7th, 8th, 9th, somewhere in there, wherever he's going. 6 might be a little early for him. But Darnell Mooney, he for some reason shows a connection. I mean, I like Darnell Mooney. I don't love him, but he shows a connection with Justin Fields. The Bears are a football team is about the nicest thing I could say. They are going to score. NFL. They are going to score at some point, and he's going to be their number one option. And then Marquise Brown, let me go on the rant real quick. I fucking hate Marquise Brown. I hate Hollywood Brown. I never liked him at the Ravens. I know he got traded to his college teammate. And I like Kyler.
It's got to be good for something there, right?
It's got to be. And you know what? The only reason I have him in this top 24 is because DeAndre Hopkins was juicing, and he's going to be done for 6 games, I believe. So you have to factor him in. And you know what? Hollywood Brown is going to, some shitty way, whether it's like a reverse or they give him these little slants, crossers, they will get him the ball and he will score and he will be a value. But if you need this guy to make a catch with his hands, with the game on the line, don't fucking hold your breath because he's going to drop the ball. He cannot catch with his hands. He can catch it over the shoulder at times, but Marquise Brown is good for fantasy. He's not a good NFL wide receiver. And that's all I have to say about him. Floor is yours.
I was going to bring up the catching the ball with his hands bit because I know that that's a big thing for you, but you answered it because I've personally witnessed you yell at the TV while Marquise Brown drops a potential touchdown pass that hit him right in the hands. But nonetheless, I'm a little higher on Marquise Brown. I'm not a Ravens fan, so I didn't have to personally live through that. So he comes in for tier 4 wide receivers for me at number 16. He starts off tier 4. Following that, we got Jalen Waddle, 17. Scary Terry McLaurin, my guy, 1-7, coming in at wide receiver 18. DK Metcalf following that. Brandon Cooks at 20. AJ Brown at wide receiver 21. I already got into it. Just poop show. I don't want anything to do with AJ Brown this year. Allen Robinson, somebody who did not make your list, coming in at 22 for me. Jerry Jeudy, another guy, coming in 23, and Darnell Mooney coming in at wide receiver 24. I would have loved to get Gabriel Davis on this list. I just think, what do I think? Because it's difficult. Because
how about this? If you're in a draft right now, let's say you've already got two running backs. And you got 1 wide receiver. Let's just say you got 2 of each. Okay. Mm-hmm. You're drafting a flex essentially.
Okay.
You have Gabe Davis there, and you also have Allen Robinson. Who would you rather have?
Wow.
They're both wide receiver 2s in a very good offense.
The wide receiver 2 is very valuable in Los Angeles. It's also very valuable in Buffalo, of course. Don't get me wrong. But the reason I'm going to say Allen Robinson is because I think that he's going to have a more steady volume than Gabe Davis, who's going to be probably up and down throughout the season. A lot of talk about Isaiah McKenzie, even a little bit of Jamison Crowder. People love James Cook catching passes. There's so many people that you can name for Buffalo to catch the ball. And I know they're going to throw it a crap ton, but there's so many names that I think I like Allen Robinson because he's obviously the number 2 name. Like there's talks about OBJ coming back, but I think he's still dealing with the injury a little bit. So when you say, who are the Rams pass catchers, you go Cooper Kupp, Allen Robinson. When you say, who are the Buffalo pass catchers, I have about 5 names that could be involved heavy. So I think I go Allen Robinson. It's very tough though.
Yeah. I mean, I love Allen Robinson. I think he's going to be rejuvenated out of Chicago. My only thing is I like Gabe Davis there just because Gabe Davis is younger. He's on more of an upwards trajectory. I think Robinson has a slight upward trajectory just because of how bad last season was. You had a share of Allen Robinson. I had a share of Allen Robinson.
It was brutal.
It was miserable.
It took a lot out of me to put him in my top 24. I'm going to be honest.
I mean, I think there's only a handful of places he could have gone that could have got people up about Allen Robinson again. I think he's good. I'd just rather have the younger guy with the more explosive upside.
Yeah, and bringing that up a few places, like he definitely went to a place that he got his value way back up going because we saw what could happen just even from plugging in Odell off the street into this LA offense. Like he became a starter every single week. And also, I think just pat myself on the back, humble brag. I think I dropped Allen Robinson before a lot of people did last year. I dropped him like week 5, I think. I'd have to go back and check, but I feel like I dropped him personally earlier than a lot of people because he was shitting the bed week after week. And it's not like he was hurt. He didn't get hurt. He was on the field for probably damn near 100% of the offensive snaps in Chicago.
I think
it wasn't working.
I think
Darnell Mooney, wide receiver 1.
I think people should have read in more to the fact that he was franchise tagged and didn't want it. It was just a whole bad situation going into the season, and it looked like a wide receiver that was checked out on a bad offense.
Yeah, he did look checked out.
So something to monitor. You want to go to questions?
Yeah, for sure.
Jamal Adams, I'm the best in the nation.
So I got one for you right now, actually.
Got it.
So besides the top 12, obviously those are our top 12 guys. Out of this second top 12, top 24, who is your favorite? It might not be your number 13 ranked wide receiver, but who is your favorite guy that you're targeting the most, ADP accounted for, within that 13 to 24 range?
We're talking wide receivers or running backs?
Wide receivers, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah. Wide receivers, DJ Moore. I think DJ Moore. I think Baker Mayfield is I don't want to say underrated, but he's underappreciated for what he does for his wide receivers. Take the OBJ thing out of there. He made Donovan Peoples-Jones very viable. He found Kareem Hunt out of the backfield. I think Baker Mayfield is a good quarterback. And, I actually thought Sam Darnold was too, but the Panthers are almost like you can laugh. They've had like 3 one-offs in quarterbacks the last 3 years, but Baker Mayfield has the best proven talent out of those 3, Bridgewater and Darnold. And I think, big old Bob Anderson's there too. Don't forget about him. By the way, he's spelling his name with a Y now, not an IE.
No.
That was the news that came through. That was so unimportant. But I think DJ Moore, could have I think DJ Moore could be like a Deebo Samuel-ish kind of breakout this year. Obviously, he's not going to run the ball, but like that wide receiver that he's at his 3rd, 4th year. People think they know what they've got out of him. I think he gets a little more touchdowns this year. I think DJ Moore is the guy I've been targeting the most, and he will be
I like that a lot, and I'm going to answer that as well. I think people might say this is a homer pick. I believe in Terry McLaurin this year.
Oh, scary Terry.
Carson Wentz.
Commander
Carson, is clearly far and away the best quarterback Terry McLaurin has ever played with. We talked about Michael Pittman earlier. Carson Wentz made Michael Pittman.
By the way, I forgot to this when I was talking about Michael Pittman. Michael Pittman was the wide receiver 16 last year with Commander Carson.
Thank you.
With Colt Carson at the time.
Yes, very true. And people knock him down so much. Obviously, he makes boneheaded plays, but this Scott Turner offense, they're going to be ready to sling the ball. We have Jahan Dotson now, first round pick. Curtis Samuel's looking healthy. Tight end's a little iffy right now. We got some injuries. Logan Thomas trying to come back. You can't just focus in on Terry McLaurin this year. You can't. Jahan Dotson, all you hear about he's pro ready. He's got great hands. People are going to have to guard him. If they're not paying attention to Jahan, he's going to be someone who's going to have a great rookie year. But I think that people are aware of that enough with the first round draft capital. I think Terry McLaurin could even sneak up to the top 12 range. I think that's his ceiling. I'm not saying anything crazy. I'm not saying top 5. I think he could get into that top 12 range. And I love Terry McLaurin as an NFL player and a fantasy player this year. I think he loses a little bit just because of the quarterbacks he's played with in the past. But I think Commander Carson is going to get the job done, and Terry McLaurin is going to have a great year.
Let's go on to our second question. I'm going to do this for running backs. Who's the most difficult guy to rank outside your top 12?
Oh, it might be someone we talked about a lot earlier, is Saquon Barkley. I think Saquon Barkley, we talked about how Christian McCaffrey and Saquon were 1-2 or like a few years ago. And now all of a sudden, just because of this injury past and the Giants not being a fluent offense, now Saquon is outside of the RB1 range for me personally. And I know I have him there, but I see the light at the end of the tunnel where Saquon is a top 8 running back again, I would say. But it's really hard to do that, especially without seeing this new offense with Brian Daboll. Daniel Jones is just gross, like just flat out gross. And the
Danny
offense,
Dimes,
Danny Crime, because he's just terrible. I don't like the Giants offense at all. I know that's NFC East, like blah, 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 but I want to put him higher. And because of everything surrounding him and not him is why I have him lower. And that makes it so difficult for me.
I'm going to go ahead and answer this with Cam Akers. I don't know what the hell to expect from Cam Akers. He's on a great offense that loves to run the ball. He's coming off an Achilles injury, and I know he came back last year, but he looked like shit. I think he was running like under 3 yards of carry in the playoffs.
Yep. He was getting fed, though. That's the crazy part. They kept feeding him.
Yeah, and so a guy I've been targeting late, like way late in drafts, is Darrell Henderson, because apparently, from what I've heard, is that used to be a backfield that Sean McVay liked to feed one guy. There's been reports that he's changed his mind a little bit on that. So if you can get a piece, like I don't think there should be as huge of a gap between Cam Akers and Darrell Henderson as there is. And Darrell Henderson is a great value. If he's going to get any type of playing time on that offense, running the ball, give me Darrell Henderson in the 11th or 12th.
I've been loving taking Darrell Henderson in best ball drafts recently, just getting him way down there, just in case. You never know what might happen. Yeah.
So as far as Cam Akers goes, I don't know what to expect from him this season. I think that's a very cloudy situation. I don't find myself taking him at all. I'll just let someone else figure that problem out when it comes to drafting that running back 2. But Cam Akers is my answer for the most difficult guy to rank.
I think that's a great answer because I haven't been touching him either, and he's very scary.
Do you want to I have a little breaking news for you, Joe.
Oh, yeah. Let's hear it.
We interrupt this program for an important news announcement.
I have 2 pieces of breaking news. I don't know if it changes absolutely anything.
What a first episode. 2 pieces of breaking news. Oh,
yes.
My God.
So Sony Michel was cut by the Dolphins today.
Oh, say it ain't so.
I think that helps your Chase Edmonds lock. And then the other one is, no, it's not the Ravens are releasing Tony Jefferson. Nobody cares about the 8th string safety. But the Lions, the Lions are really messing this up. The Jaguars are trading Laviska Shenault to the Panthers. Laviska, I believe it's just might be a pick or something. There's nothing.
Oh yeah, it doesn't say.
Nothing in there. But interesting. Nothing. I don't think he's draft worthy right now. That's just something to keep an eye on. Laviska, I think, is a really talented guy, and for all accounts, should have been getting the ball more last year in Jacksonville.
Yeah.
That's actually super interesting. I think he doesn't affect DJ Moore. I think he affects Robbie Anderson, if anything. So interesting thing to monitor.
I think that is a little, not really going to pop up on too many radars, but I think it could be a little something just because that kind of reminds me of a Curtis Samuel type role back when he was in Carolina,
Yeah.
So yeah, that's awesome. That's huge breaking news for the first ever Eastside Fantasy Football episode.
Gigantic. It's cut week, baby. Guys are getting the tags in the locker.
Let's go.
All right. So, we're going to jump into our last segment.
Oh, yeah.
You like that? You like that?
All right. Guys that were left out of the top 24 that we ranked today that could be there by the end of the season. We're going to do running backs and wide receivers. Let's try to go through this pretty quickly.
Yeah,
I'll go first. I'll do my running backs first. I got Dameon Pierce, who's currently ranked on ESPN as number 34. There's been the huge hype train, and guess what? I'm on it. I think Dameon Pierce, I like the way he runs. Coming out of Florida, there it is. Coming out of Florida, I like the way he runs. Like I said, I think this Houston offense can be better. And this is something like this reminds me of a James Robinson-esque. guy you weren't really expecting. And remember, James Robinson was, I think, not drafted in the NFL. I don't even think he was drafted in a lot of leagues. He was a guy who
was picked up. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think this is like, I'm not saying he's going to have the James Robinson breakout rookie season, but anytime you can get a guy who has this absolute stranglehold on the backfield, doesn't matter what offense, you get him late. And my second guy is James Cook. James Cook, I was not a big fan of coming out, but this guy, all he does is catch the football, and in an offense that loves to throw it and does not like to run at all. I don't know how many Bills games I watched last year where it's like, did they run the ball at all? James Cook can catch the football. That's a specialty. And what has Devin Singletary or Zach Moss done in these last years? In Zach Moss' case, just last year, but Singletary, what have those guys done to say, I deserve to be on the field? Nothing. So those are my two guys who I think you could draft late and they could finish inside the top 24. Go ahead with your running backs.
So yeah, my first one, not the like boldest pick, but he is coming out actually right at number 24 on ESPN leagues, but in your ranking and my rankings, he does not fall into our top 24. That is AJ Dillon, the 1B, technically RB1 in Green Bay. I just think he's just an amazing runner. He's got the trademark Saquon Barkley thunder thighs. I mean, he's just a downhill, knock you over
downhill runner.
He's a downhill runner, and he's not even 3 yards in a cloud of dust. Like, he can put a little move on you. He can even catch a pass. I think Aaron Jones it's obviously 1A, but with Devontae Adams going to the casino in Las Vegas, I think AJ Dillon has a great opportunity to be in the top 24 this year. Following that, Rashad Penny, currently running back 36 on ESPN. I mean, that's an RB1 you're getting at the 36th ranked running back. I mean, there's never been a time, I know Ken Walker was drafted, but there's never been a time in Seattle and under Pete Carroll that a rookie running back has ever come in and been the guy week one. I think Rashad Penny is going to be the guy. The injury history obviously scares me, but besides that, I think that is a great value at RB36 when you're getting an RB1.
You can go ahead and do the wide receivers too.
Yeah, I'll jump right into it. So our wide receivers are funny. We both have a Kansas City wide receiver. We both like one over the other. Mine is a lot lower down in the rankings. Marquez Valdez-Scantling, wide receiver 49 on ESPN. I actually saw a little bit. My Manders played the Chiefs in preseason, week 2, I believe, and I watched MVS seemingly be Patrick Mahomes' number one target there. Obviously, Travis Kelce is the de facto wide receiver 1 / tight end 1 in Kansas City, but I honestly think the money is at MVS with a 3-year deal. I think that he could be the second option in Kansas City. Following that, we're going to go to a Raven here, Rashad Bateman, wide receiver 31 on ESPN. He's another guy that, like, it's hard to really commit in my rankings, but there is just so many opportunities there with Hollywood being gone that Rashad Bateman, if he steps into it, which I think he should, there should be no problem him being a wide receiver 24 or better. Who you got as your wide receivers here?
All right, so I got Juju Smith-Schuster, currently ranked number 31. I like him over MVS because Juju Smith-Schuster, I think a lot of people forget, a couple years ago, finished as top. I think he was on RB1. I think he was a top 12, wide receiver 1. I think he finished top 12 a couple years ago. I think it was either his rookie or sophomore season. I was trying to look that up real quick. But he's done it before, and he's still super young. He goes from playing with Ben Roethlisberger, who was on a very steep decline, to Patrick Mahomes. And this guy has the pedigree over all the other guys they got there with the most success. And, you know, with these Kansas City wide receivers, you got to take one and hope one, you know, pops for you. And I think Juju is the guy. And then my second guy, who's ranked number 32, we're going to go to Vegas, Hunter Renfrow, Clemson, man. Let's not forget that. Guy caught the football to win a national championship. Unbelievable.
Do you think he was involved in any of this Deshaun Watson stuff, considering he was the quarterback that threw it to him?
No, I don't think he had. I don't think Hunter Renfro's ever gotten a massage.
No accusations.
I don't think Hunter Renfrow has ever received a massage in his life. Okay. And here's the thing.
Neither has Tyler Lockett.
Great. No.
That's it. Go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah. Nothing to be undissected there. Hunter Renfrow, you had him, I believe, last year in this league.
Oh, yeah.
And you loved him.
He was locked in as my flex.
Spectacular. He still is a great wide receiver. And I know Davante Adams came over. Here's the thing. I believe Derwin James was on a podcast talking to.
Yeah, it was Derwin James.
Yeah, and he was talking about guys, and he was like Tyreek, and he named Renfro. This guy, like, people know he's good. And now I think, obviously, there's going to be targets taken away, but we've talked about how good offenses can have two guys in the top 12, like the Bengals. There's no reason he can't be a top 24 wide receiver, especially around the goal line. I mean, if all the attention is going to be put on Adams in the short space, it's very hard to cover Renfro, one of the most underrated route runners. And now I think Vegas has two of the best route runners on their team. So I think Hunter Renfro is going to surprise people. Even after having a great breakout season last year, I think he still comes back with the juice this year.
Yeah, I love that pick. And actually, to help you out a little bit with that Hunter Renfro, just to back you up, I mean, Darren Waller has missed a lot of training camp.
Yeah.
He's been injured. He's missed a lot of training camp, as well as Josh McDaniels being there now. Do you remember, you know who Julian Edelman was, obviously, one of the greatest slot receivers of all time, probably. Hunter Renfro can fill into that role very easily and be a top 24 wide receiver.
Yeah, so that's
going to wrap it up.
This was the first episode of the Eastside Fantasy Football Podcast. Joe, want to plug the Twitter one more time?
Eastside, one word, FF. Eastside, one word, FF. Capital E, capital S, capital FF at the end. Look us up on Twitter. That's where I'm going to be posting the links to listen here. Follow us on Twitter.
We also have a YouTube, which will be posted to, and Apple Podcasts. So thanks everybody for coming out and listening. We'll be coming back to you. What day we coming back, Joe?
Saturday. Next episode will be on Saturday.
And I think that week we're going to get into quarterbacks, tight ends. We're going to do a little live mock, and we'll even introduce you to what we think of some of the players in this league. We didn't really talk about a lot. We mentioned someone named Soup. He's a real character, and we might even have some audio bites for him coming up, but we're going to get you introduced to our league. So that was the first episode of the Eastside Fantasy Football Podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah.
For Nick Testoni and Joe Briner, we're out.